Okay, at this time, I'll call the Richmond Township Planning Commission meeting to order. You all have an agenda in front of you, and we'll look for approval of the minutes of the September 30th monthly meeting. Any comments? Did everybody have a chance to review them? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve or question. Ben has moved.
I'll second.
Nick has seconded. Is there any discussion or question? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Minutes are approved. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to have some comment on the agenda items? Okay. We'll go to old business, Northeast Products, LDP. I guess, Matt, you're gonna start it.
So we did get a submission 2 weeks ago for this project that came in. They had made revisions from 2 months ago when we met and went through. We can go through the letter here. We did have a meeting on site to go over quite a few of the items, which was good. There's a couple questions on items outside of the letter as well. Just to make sure everybody's aware that some of the questions, concerns they looked into further on the codes end of things. The storage that they're doing on the property was not fully compliant. They're working through that. They issued a notice, but they have since gone into agreement with another property, or I'm sorry, gone into a purchase of another property where they are going to be doing some offsite storage. So that is going to help some of the issues they've been having. But they got notice. They have 30 days to be compliant, and they have been honestly taking most of the stuff on the site and moving it. I will say that one unique thing from walking on the site is that they are a dock manufacturing operation, and you might know exactly what that looks like, but they ship off different types of materials as a finished product, not just what you picture as a dock. So there's some walkways, other areas where, what do you want to call it, kayaks are coming in. Doesn't look like a finished dock, but it's a finished product waiting to be shipped. So that does kind of, until you get out there and look at it, it does kind of lend the opportunity to think some of them aren't finished, but they are. But they use their floats on everything. Those are unfinished. That's a perfect example of what was being addressed.
So they store that outside the building?
The finished product is what they're allowed to store outside on a impervious, whether it's stone or a paving. On the new land development plan, most of the paving is just their driveways and deliveries coming in and out, but they do have additional stone areas that they're going to have finished product on. So that is part of what they're cleaning up and addressing as the land development.
Okay, you said they had 30 days to do that.
They're, as far as the parts that they were not compliant with, they are working towards that. So, with that said, you want to just jump into the letter, or if there's anything you want to. So the letter here that you only got today, that's I want to go through especially the zoning comments. There is the sewer. So there's an easement coming off the back of the property running through what is Grande's open space right now. The supervisors have entered into an agreement to take that over, and they are going to eventually take that as the intent is to have a park pretty much behind this property, or at least a park area, parking lot, and then the fields will be fields that they use for the township. Because that is under agreement, there may be a slight variation to the layout. You might find that out in the next week here once we're dealing with the company laying out the park. But for the most part, Chris's office did not want to say that we're holding that up when the agreement's already in place, just saying that it's a timing issue on our end as opposed to theirs. So that item is generally okay with what they're showing. They do have to create an easement and capture that on the plans, but right now, that layout, what we're assuming is accurate as we can get right now. It may change slightly, but they do have all the approvals from the township, sewer, and DEP for that connection right now. That's the first comment. The second comment spoke to the noise impacts. They already have equipment out there, and we saw some of them being some of the forklifts, the trucks, that they all do have backup beepers on those. That's a safety issue that we can't really get around. That's required for those. I don't see any concern with those other, I mean, it is adjacent to the residential properties, but as far as the use, that's to be anticipated. We did find the fan, it's an exhaust fan off the building that there was concern with. We had them turn that on and it did not seem too excessive. I will say the land development plan, the building addition actually puts a building directly in front of that as compared to where the residential property is. It's coming off the side of the building. It will be blocking that exhaust fan. I mean, there's no way around it. It will help with that addition, but they have said if it's a future issue and there is actually a violation, they'd be happy to put like some type of baffle on it, or they're saying like a snorkel, basically some kind of cover to try to help with the sound. But with the welding you're doing inside, that was added on intentionally to try to help their operation. So I did not see anything out of the ordinary or something I was concerned of with this. And it wasn't just me, Jeff Fine, the zoning officer, was there looking at these as well. Comment 3 discussed the trucks coming in and out. On the plans that submitted, there was there was limited truck turning movements. So they did just submit this here today. We can get into this. One of the things is the trucks are limited to the paved area. If they couldn't stay on the paved area, that was going to be a concern, but they can do it for what they're planning on doing. They'll basically be parking. And I know we talked about the bay doors, but where they're parking, they're actually going to be using the forklifts and the other lifts they have to just take everything off and move it around the property. So they are able to get the trucks in and out. The concern I have is trucks coming from, if you want to call it the treatment plant. So it's that the west side, the western side of Crisscross, as they come to enter the property. I don't know if you can make that out or not on the drawing. If I can find it, I'll tell you where it is. Well,
It's in that packet.
the bottom right picture, you can see that the truck somewhere around Rhino Drive has to completely leave the proper lane and turn from the opposite lane. I know it's an existing business, but if they're going to be expanding and this isn't operating correctly as far as the trucks and safety coming in and out of there, that is something that I didn't have a chance to really go through with Rob on this, but it is something that we need to look into a little further. It's just, as shown, it's not really complying with any kind of safety for the truck coming in and out of there. I don't know if there's talked about room for expansion on the driveway for the width or what they may be able to do, but to me, that's still a concern with what that's shown.
From our standpoint, the layout that we provided is it's the standard geometric shape of a 9-degree turn with a 53-foot truck trailer. I think anybody who's been around loading docks can know the trucks can move in a lot of different ways and make tighter turns in tighter spaces than a standard 24-foot wide driveway with an open flare like this. So we can look at the layout to see if we can show a narrower one, and then if necessary, if we need to widen that entrance on that side to provide a little extra paved area for the throat of the driveway to come in, we can make that work to satisfy the township engineer's concerns.
That won't affect the impervious areas.
Well, if we have to widen it there, we'll just have to shave some off somewhere else. So that's essentially how that works.
Yeah, I just, for what's shown and from our discussions, they didn't have all these movements. I asked that they had them on there. So it really was kind of a last minute discussion point to look at these and go over, but yeah, I think it's gotta be lessened to the maximum extent feasible here and figure out where we go after we see that. So that's, I'd say, I think that covers the truck movements, and they have addressed as far as coverages here. They are completely maxed out with impervious cover, which is building plus paving, but building, they still have some room, which doesn't matter because the other part of it's maxed out right now. I'm not trading anything off, but they are compliant with what they can do for an expansion. Comment 4 on the third page, we had talked about the buffer along the residential property. There is an existing fence there. As they grade in, we talked about how that fence, the grades are gonna be coming up, so that fence is gonna be lessened. You're probably half the size of what it is now. There's enough room there to be able to put a buffer between, and they're putting in arborvitae the full length of that.
Is that what you're talking there?
Yes, yeah, it's actually, you can see it on the truck turning movements as well, but they'll be putting that along the full residential property. We talked about an additional fence to go in there as well. I don't necessarily know if that took with the applicant or not, but I know they're, as of right now, they're showing the arborvitae. That is what's required for screening. There was concern as far as my first comment saying, well, it's supposed to be a 20-foot buffer there, but there always was an existing buffer there. This is slightly moved. It's going to be slightly improved as far as the length, so it's kind of making a pre-existing condition a little better than what it was. I don't know if you have anything going on.
No, just, as you said, with the fence, there's already a 6-foot high vinyl fence there on the neighbor's side. Putting another fence on our side didn't seem to make much sense. And with the separation between the retaining wall and the property line, it seemed optimal to just provide the arborvitaes and let them grow. If you, Scott was out there on the site, if you look towards the north end of the crisscross road end of that northern line, there's already existing arborvitae there that are over 20 feet tall, and they provide a nice dense screen for that corner of the property. Essentially, what we'd be looking at is trying to extend that screen with fast-growing arborvitaes that would provide a taller, more substantial visual barrier than any fence is going to do once you get it above 6 feet.
Why does the arborvitae come up along here then?
So Ken's looking at the where it changes from the residential property, and then it comes down behind the property that exists along crisscross.
This is the access drive.
Right, so here's the access driveway. So in here right now, there's really tall arborvitaes right there. So the property line comes in and then goes over like this. And then
So you say there is some there.
There is going to be
not
some.
along the back here. So they're going to propose.
It's not arborvitae.
It's not arborvitae. There's the landscape plan shows.
I can't remember the name, but it grows to maybe about a 5-foot tall kind of decorative, almost holly type bush. I can't remember.
So it'll stop them from going into that property.
Yeah, there is a screening as well. It's not quite as, it's not going to grow quite as high.
So this is a mixture of California privet and white cedar arborvitae. So it's not the green giants, but it's going to essentially still give you a nice barrier here. These are just going to be spaced differently than the ones that are going to be along the north line. The north line is going to be spaced to provide a full dense screen.
Okay.
And that will too, if you can just double check it. I know we talked about this in previous meeting, but just as long as that's a year-round cover, because that is for
It is,
the
yeah.
parking. Okay.
Yeah, that's going to provide a year-round. It's not like a wall. It's going to grow into each other eventually. It's not as thick. It's just arborvitae stacked up against each other. I'll leave these here just in case any other questions come up during the review.
The last comment in the zoning there had to do with the lighting. So they provided a lighting plan. This took a little bit of comparison of the zoning hearing decision because they received a variance at their hearing. The only thing they got a variance for was to install lighting, but not as intense as the ordinance requires, simply because there was such residents' presence at the meeting. They didn't want that to be just one more thing that got, that reached the property line and caused more of a problem. So looking at the exhibit from that hearing, they showed a lighting plan of just lights around the building and one other additional light towards the back of that property we were just talking. And the zoning hearing board decision actually said they wanted to see a plan where that lighting footprint was lessened. So they approved the variance that it didn't have to be the 1 foot candle over all the parking area. But they actually asked for something less. And what they showed was keeping all the lighting to the building as wall packs, showing down around the perimeter of the building. And in my opinion, they're meeting what the decision was. Which wasn't really easy to figure that part out. So those are the comments as far as the zoning. I think that was the biggest comments that remain, and I wanted to kind of go through that one by one. We did go through the waivers, 3 waivers at the last time we met. That was for the plan scale, and then the 2 stormwater. That was already recommended by the planning commission. The one that wasn't was the preliminary final, which is the first comment in subdivision and land development, page 3. As far as the other comments, there isn't a final approval from the authority, but there has been plenty of back and forth of approving what's going to go in, what fees are expected. They have a planning module in for the sewer right now with DEP. There were no negative comments as far as the water. In addition, Rob clarified they have had a technical review for the ENS and their permitting that has come back to them with comments, and they've resubmitted. So typically as those go, they're well on their way for that. Agreements are standard here. Stormwater, page 4. I don't know if there's anything else we really need to talk about other than the fact that they have their standard stormwater maintenance agreement. And then there's a post-construction inspection fee that they acknowledge both of those.
Okay, you guys have any questions down there?
So,
You're saying the township is entering into an agreement with their sewer business,
yes.
and it isn't gonna add on to what they call the total acreage? I mean, it won't affect that.
The sewer end of it,
Well, if we have an agreement to give them a little bit more right to, take care of the sewer, it's not gonna give them more property that they can build a little bit of.
no, it's just, they're basically the township granting an easement through the property.
Okay, that's what I understood it as.
Yeah.
Are we putting on the plan that there's no more adjustments to the building after this?
They are maxed out on what they can.
Well, can we guarantee that?
Unless the zoning changes.
I mean, they can go to the variance board.
Yes, that's really the only thing they have as an option.
We're maxed out on building as well, so.
I understand that, but I mean, if you go before the variance board, they can.
There's not specifically a note saying it, but the only thing I would say is their notes on the plan show that they're maxed out as far as their impervious area.
That's sufficient.
So they're building, if they wanted to do anything with that, they'd have to adjust the paving, and I don't think they could at this moment, really. Well, anybody could get creative, so I don't want to say no, but they're pretty well maxed out. And I would say the zoning officer's fully aware of everything going on as well, so. So really at this point, there's There is the concern with the truck moving in and out of the front of the property. There is the waiver on the board for the preliminary, there's a waiver request for the preliminary and final. But really, other than that, those are the two remaining comments. I would
How
say
do you
there.
address these two waivers? The one for 36 inches.
Yes,
Those are taken care
those
of.
were taken care of at the last meeting.
So we would need a waiver for the preliminary and final plans.
Correct.
Yeah. I think that's what they'd like if you guys had agreed with it, so.
I actually believe the planners have already recommended that at a previous meeting.
I thought,
It was, they,
The supervisors just wouldn't approve it until they would approve
okay,
the waiver.
and if it is, I apologize. I thought we had done the other three, but not the preliminary final.
I think they said it would be okay with them as long as everything was in accordance with the zoning. If we got everything settled with the zoning, they would be okay with it, but it wasn't technically, we wanted to wait till zoning and everything was handled.
So Scott would give it final approval.
Correct. Yeah, as long as everything from zoning was taken care of and handled, that the planning commission didn't see any problems with approving that. So if we want to make another, just to confirm that things have settled,
Right, yeah.
we can do that.
I think the preliminary final request, for as many times as we've gone through this and talked about it, I don't think it's an unfair request on this end as far as the waiver goes. I would say it is kind of a single remaining item here. There is that question of the driveway and the trucks coming in and out. I don't know on the recommendation to the board if you'd rather see that before. I don't know how it's going to play out as far as affecting the driveway or the layout of this, but that is the other item that's there.
So you're waiting for them to give you a recommendation. Are you the one that gives the final approval?
Well, you guys are giving the recommendation.
Well, I
I'm
understand
trying,
that.
I'm trying to help out as far as where we go with this, and
I mean, I understand the supervisors want that done before we,
Right.
I think that item, I would like to see where that goes, frankly, just with the truck having to swing completely into the other lane on the plans. I don't like recommending something where you're seeing it that dramatic as far as how they're entering the site.
But they have the space to clear the driveway on the property.
We have some additional space to widen the driveway if necessary. And again, it's an existing facility that's operating now. So, I mean, I don't have any concerns about us finding a solution for this. To me, it's just a matter of getting together. Unfortunately, it was just, we met with Scott on Thursday. He asked for the updates. We sent them to him, got them done today. By the time we got them to him today, he didn't have a chance to look at them until a couple hours before now. So had we a couple more hours, we might have been able to square this away before the meeting. But again, I feel like it's something we could definitely mark out by the end of the week.
so we're looking for maybe a motion to go preliminary final with one exception until we get final approval on that driveway situation.
And that, if you want to take a motion on that, that's just for the waivers, what you're looking at.
Make a motion for the waiver going from, or for the preliminary and final.
Okay, Nick makes a motion on that waiver. 10 seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried.
And then the other is, he's looking to move forward with that approval. If you want to give a recommendation, it's just whether or not you want to see that addressed prior to, or make the recommendation and then just.
Well, we could do a conditional approval based on you addressing that and being satisfied.
That's sort of what I
Is
said.
that
yes.
what-
Yeah, that's,
support
and,
that?
and I think that just to be honest, I think the question is, because it is a safety zoning, is that okay? I don't think it would go in front of the board at all before that's cleared up, and if there is a dramatic change here, where they say, well, we're not able to get this fixed and addressed, then they're coming back to you again. So,
I agree. I mean, any major dramatic change would have to come back to the planners, but if we're just talking about changing some lines on the plan, and even if we're just, adding a foot or two to the driveway flare to make it work, I think those are relatively minor alterations to the plan.
and to your question, Ben, there is, and we haven't had a chance to get into it, but there is probably, trying to see if the dimension's right there, maybe about another 20 feet of their property they have at the entrance.
Out here, you know, same thing that.
But that's, so, in their entrance, it is kind of interesting that their existing driveway, they already have an easement onto the property to the east. So that existing driveway's there, and they are expanding a little to the west, but they have another 20 feet they could. I just think they're minimizing how much paving they had to do on the driveway, but also how much they're going towards the neighbors, because I don't think they want to, but I think it's just a matter of if they have to. So,
17 feet from the edge of the property line.
did you find it? I couldn't see it. I was trying to find it. I thought I saw it earlier. They got a little gap right in here.
Okay, what's the feeling of the board? Looks like everything's going to be addressed, but it'll happen when we get it addressed. So if you want to give conditional approval.
I mean, I'm comfortable with conditional approval based on, having the, turning radius addressed and truck traffic.
So- Can I make that a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
Thank you. Ben, you're second. Any discussion or question? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried.
And that would be conditional on the letter anyway, that's in there, so it's,
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Okay, moving on to new business. How about Med request for a waiver?
Thank you. I'm John Melham from the Land Associates in Harrisburg. Thank you for inviting us here tonight. Excuse me, are you Jen by any chance?
Yes, I am.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
And
you.
I want to compliment the township on the assistance she's provided us and through us, our client. I was asked to just give you a brief idea of what this thing is all about. We are asking for exemption or waiver from any land development for purposes of installing a 180-foot tall model pole for First Energy. Those of you who don't know, First Energy is the parent company of Med and many others in the Mid-Atlantic region. Our company, through with Bob Heath, a local engineer, we do a lot of First Energy's advanced planning in about 5 states: Pennsylvania, Maryland, Ohio, West Virginia, New Jersey. And we come to you this evening with a similar request that we have been granted by other subsidiary utilities on behalf of First Energy. The purpose of this tower, it's a program that First Energy and I'm sure other regional utilities in the country have undertook about, our involvement's maybe been 6 years now. And this is a totally proprietary facility, no co-location. The purpose of this is for essentially data transmission. And the purpose of this is to have, they're all located within substations as is this. And the purpose of these towers is automatic data transmission between substations, as has been explained to me. I'm not a radio engineer, I'm a landscape architect. But the purpose of this is so that a utility can instantly, automatically adjust power transmission where and where and how much is needed at any particular point in the grid. And that's the purpose of this. So it's not for personal communications. There may be some of that, but the vast majority of it is this automatic data transmission. And as such, I think you're probably gathering from my conversation here or my discussion, this is an essential aspect now of efficiently maintaining power service to the public. And because of that, some states grant us exemption from some of their zoning. The Commonwealth is one of those. Other states haven't gotten quite to that point. And we have to, in many cases, my company, do conditional uses, variance requests, flight balloons so people can see the height of these things. But as I say, tonight, we request your consideration for exemption from land development. We base that request on the fact that this tower has a very, very small footprint. Let me just show you. The location for this tower actually is right here. I guess by about 40 feet, we're within the township. And it would be using,
So that's a substation.
Yeah.
this is a substation here.
Okay.
And there's an existing control building there, which we will use for our equipment for this monopole. So there's no additional construction required. All right, so here's, if I can just pass this around here.
Mhm.
And the scale of this gentleman and lady is 1 inch to 100. So you can see just by about 40 feet, you're into this township. And my wife is with me tonight because I took her out for dinner, all right? And I have to tell you, your logo is fantastic because you have such beautiful farms in this township. Just absolutely knocked out by them. So I think it's a very apt logo. And indeed, on your home page for your website, there's a beautiful farm there. One of many, I'm sure. But in any case, that's the location of the tower. The 180 feet is not determined by us, it's determined by the consulting engineers for First Energy. It happened to be Burns and McDonnell. And those of you who, like myself, have been involved in consulting for 40 years, if it's been a day. Burns and McDonnell is headquartered in Kansas City, and they do a lot of these transmission propagation studies. And it's all computerized, and it's all very efficient. And depending on the lay of the land, the transmissions are pretty much line of sight. So based on topography and all that, in this area here, for the requirements they have, they need that 180 feet. Now, what's on top of this monopole is simply, this is a generic version that we have, but it basically will probably have two dish antenna, somewhere between 4 and 6 feet in diameter. Overall, it's a very clean design. It's not like a lattice tower or a guide tower. Its footprint is minimal. It's the basic foundation for it. There is no earth disturbance other than boring out the hole and pouring in concrete. There's no stormwater requirements or stormwater ramifications. It's going to be totally, of course, within the fence compound of the substation, as they all are. It's totally safe. This is simply a small blow up, and I will tilt this way so north is up. It shows that existing control building, which I don't have a scale with me, but it's probably about 400 feet from the road. And that red dot, of course, would be the footprint of the tower itself. So therein lies our request to the Planning Commission for your consideration.
So I guess you want a waiver for land development.
Yes, sir.
These two guys can help me out.
I don't think we need to see it. Yeah, I'll make that request to waive land development.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? And seconds, is there any discussion or question? Okay, hearing
Why,
none,
thank
all in
you.
favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried.
I thank you. Now, 2 questions.
Must we pay for your wife's dinner? Just kidding.
Thank you for the thank you.
dinner at Osgood.
That's a good place,
She's the
yeah.
one that recommended it. It was very nice. They're lovely students.
Glad you
laid on
enjoyed
us.
it.
Very much, thank you. Two questions. First of all, what do we need to do, if anything, for a building permit, which would be our next step?
I can, I'll you may have already
Are you
been.
Jeff?
No,
Oh.
I was gonna say, I'll put Jeff back in contact with you, because I think he was the one who spoke with you. I don't know if there is necessarily a building permit.
Usually there is not. Sometimes, some states they require them, some jurisdictions require a building permit. They want to get a little jack.
I don't,
That's my first question. The second question is, would you want my presence or one of my office associates to come to the board or not?
typically, we say you can in case there's questions that come up. I think this is probably pretty straightforward, where I don't necessarily know if you need to.
Thank you.
We'll see if we can screen that question and give you a better answer.
I neglected to also thank your solicitor for granting our request based on Commonwealth law. So I don't know if I know his or her name.
That was Chris who,
What is it?
Chris Hartman gave the answer to that.
He did. Well, thank you for that. So anyway,
Yeah, I will have Jeff reach out to you on the building permit just to clarify if anything, and
Sure.
I will follow up with you again by email
thank you.
just to figure out where we're
And
at.
you are?
Scott Anderson, I had sent you.
Ah,
an email
thank you, Scott.
on Friday.
Thank you very much.
Just have a question for you. How far do we reach and where's the next tower?
Beyond my pay grade, man. Typically, I'll find out though for you. I'll find out I'll ask Bob Heath these things operate in radius, of course. It's not just line of sight one direction. Wherever their other substations are, and some of these are on very small substations. The energy crunch, we're all concerned with power generation and the demand, and it's getting, as you know, you read that the demand is going up, the supply is going down. The difficulty of getting new substations it doesn't help anything. And so more and more of these small substations, not that this is a small one, but they come into it. So to answer your question, the 180 feet here, I'm sure is good for probably 30 miles, easy. But I'll find out the actual answer for that, because we don't get involved with that. We get the assignment, say, all right, go get the zoning.
The one thing I'll clarify, the letter was a little misleading. I assume.
My letter or yours?
My letter. It
Oh,
was, the substation, I assumed that it was part of just the DECA compound, but that is a standalone parcel that they met and owns already, so.
Yeah, there was, thank you, Scott. There was concern over a question, does First Energy have an HOP? I should say MedEd. First Energy is their parent company. They don't actually have a license to trade in any state or commonwealth. They do that through their subsidiary, MedEd here in this case. But I did push that out to Mr. Heath to see if anyone in the utility could come up with an HOP. You understand this was just the last couple of days. They have to have an HOP. You couldn't operate a substation. How long has the substation been here, man?
The only thing could be is it's been there long enough that PennDOT hasn't nailed them for saying, hey, you have to get one because you don't have one. But I think in this case, even if it doesn't, the work's far enough off of the property, off the roadway, they're not increasing traffic here. I don't think we need to generate a request to PennDOT to make sure the HOP is updated for this. It doesn't warrant, really.
No, it doesn't generate any additional employees. It simply is, as I've explained, it's an automatic monitoring tool for the utility. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for your hospitality.
Okay, any miscellaneous business? Any chairs have any needs? And no public.
The only thing I would add is the board, I think I brought this up. The board wants to try and see on stormwater and sallow if there's any requirements that we could adjust, so there's not really so many waivers needed, or just while we're going through those motions, if anybody has concerns, something we can adjust, now would be the time. Really, we're going through and just looking, I just haven't, from the last meeting, had a chance to go through and go and get those, pick those out, other than the ones that we've given recently. And that comes down to the stormwater, there's a couple scaling, you just can rewrite them saying if it's an acceptable scale, you don't have to give a waiver, it just makes more sense because it's more legible. But if there's anything anybody has, just let me know, we're gonna be putting that together, so. In case you're at home studying on ordinances, and something comes up.
So if anybody hears of anything, bring it up, contact Scott. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, yes.
Make that look.
Got a motion, do I have a second? Nick seconds, or discussion or question? All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, no. Meeting adjourned.
We don't record it.
Tough night. Wasn't there.
Oh, yeah, I can't believe she didn't show up.
She probably didn't know really. It was a late edition.
The Northeast?
Yeah.
I wasn't an original version. Oh, boy, we'll hear about that one.